the inhumane, unjust, and illegal treatment of African Americans by Western nations viewers. In this world, there is always a possibility of freeing someone who is imprisoned, but there's no possibility of freeing a person who does not even realize that he is in prison. There was a time when slavery was common in America. Slaves were bought and sold like material possessions. Since white people did not consider them human beings, there was no concept of giving them rights. They were seen as personal property that could be kept for life. Newspapers published advertisements for the sale of black slaves in words such as, "Good news, healthy, strong, and sturdy black slaves available, young men, women, and children, limited stock, first come, first served." Slaves were treated exactly like animals. Their wives were separated and made concubines. Their children were sold to others as if they were lifeless objects, as if living with their parents had no meaning. Even a slight mistake or disobedience at work led to brutal punishments. Laws were created to give these punishments a legal cover. Slave markets were set up, and entire families were torn apart. By 1860, over 1 million slaves had been traded in America. Then, the humanity inside some people awakened. They realized that these black people were also human beings and that keeping them as slaves was not right. A movement began against slavery, which eventually led to a civil war in America. February is now celebrated as Black History Month in America and many European countries. America is currently going through a period of intense protests, but this is nothing new for the country. The African American people have taken to the streets many times to demand equal human rights and justice. They never looked back until their rightful demands were fulfilled. The strength of their voice and the truth of their struggle have now reached a point where white American police officers kneel and bow their heads, apologizing to black citizens. Viewers, this land of America has seen the time when black people were loaded onto ships from Africa and brought to America as slaves. As Malcolm X said, millions of black men and women were brought from Africa to America in chains. If it were in my power, I would show you the blood scattered in the depths of the sea, the pieces of human flesh, the broken bones, and the crushed skulls. European trader ships would go to Africa and return full of slaves. Sharks would follow these ships because they knew they would get human flesh to eat. In a century, around 110 million black people were either enslaved or killed. Viewers, if we talk about the previous century, the struggle of an African American woman named Rosa Parks for equal rights cannot be forgotten. Rosa Parks is among the most famous personalities in American history. In December 1955, she, a black woman living in Georgia, faced daily humiliation due to her color. That day, after finishing work, she boarded a bus to go home. The bus had two sections, one for white passengers and one for black passengers, separated by a line. Rosa quietly sat in her section. According to the law of that time, if the bus became crowded, black passengers had to vacate their seats for white passengers. When more white passengers boarded, the conductor ordered 3 black people to give up their seats, and white passengers sat in their place. Then it was Rosa's turn. The conductor looked at her and ordered her to stand, but she refused. The conductor warned her that refusal was a crime punishable by arrest. Rosa replied, "I am ready to go to jail, but I refuse to bow before injustice." Police were called, and Rosa Parks was arrested. She was sentenced to a few days in jail and fined $14. After her arrest, a strange silence spread across America. Out of that silence, a great resistance was born, a movement that became a turning point in the struggle for human equality. Martin Luther King Jr. became the soul of this movement. It lasted for 382 days, during which no black person in the city used public buses. After long protests, demonstrations, and constitutional battles, the struggle finally succeeded. The dividing line inside buses was erased. Now, no black person was forced to give up their seat. Thus, an unjust law could not stand before a woman's courage. Rosa Parks proved that injustice remains injustice only until it is challenged. She was later awarded America's highest civilian honor, and over 24 universities awarded her honorary doctorates. Her defiance gave strength to the weak, and that moment of resistance became the brightest chapter of her life. Viewers, if you are a woman and black in America, you face both gender discrimination and racism. And if you are a black Muslim woman, then along with color, gender, and race, you also face Islamophobia, double prejudice, and unjust restrictions. For a black Muslim woman, even with all her abilities, becoming a member of the U.S. Congress is as difficult as drawing water from a rock. A clear example is Ilhan Omar, a black Muslim woman and a member of the U.S. Congress. A white man once threatened her, saying, "I'll blow your head off with bullets. You're a Muslim, a terrorist. How dare you become a member of the U.S. Congress?" This incident reflects the harsh realities faced by ordinary black women and their families in America. There are about 40 million black people in the country, around 13% of the total population, and more than 25% of them live below the poverty line. 12 million black American children lack access to basic health care and education. Shockingly, 40% of America's prison population consists of black people. Many black families don't even have a roof over their heads. More than 500,000 people are homeless, 40% of them women, many of whom face such unbearable hardships that they either die or take their own lives. A tragic example of police brutality is that of a 50-year-old black woman, beaten so savagely by an officer that she fell to the ground, and then he climbed over her and slammed her head against the pavement. Such horrifying violence shows what black women in America endure, even in old age, as if cruelty itself has lost its sense of restraint. Viewers, one of the greatest problems black families face is raising children who grow up without knowing their fathers. This leads to financial, psychological, and social problems. About 75% of white children under 18 grow up with both parents in a stable family system, while 1/3 of black children under 18 are raised by single mothers in poor conditions. In health, culture, and economy, white women enjoy privileges completely denied to black women. In the famous American author Margaret Mitchell's novel Gone with the Wind, the black character Mammy was played by a heavy-set black woman who won the Best Supporting Actress Oscar for her role. Yet, white actors refused to sit beside her, and a separate table was arranged for her. A clear reflection of racial discrimination in Western society. Viewers, one of the most painful examples is from the so-called father of modern gynecology, Dr. James Marion Sims, who performed surgical experiments on helpless black women without anesthesia or pain relief. He believed that black women are not of the human race. They cannot feel pain. These facts prove that black women's rights cannot be restored merely through laws or treaties. As long as racism and a culture that denies human dignity continue to exist, slogans of women's freedom and equality will remain a mirage. Viewers, in the last week of May 2020, a heartbreaking incident in Minneapolis shook the entire nation. A black man named George Floyd was arrested on suspicion of using a fake $20 bill. One of the police officers pinned him to the ground and pressed his knee against Floyd's neck. George Floyd pleaded, "I can't breathe." Yet the officer continued pressing for more than 8 minutes, until Floyd died. The entire scene was captured by nearby cameras, and a young man made it viral online. Within hours, thousands of people poured into the streets. Riots broke out, shopping malls were looted, dozens of cars set on fire, and statues of leaders were torn down. The protests reached Washington, D.C. The country, already suffering from the devastation of COVID-19, plunged into deeper chaos. At one point, President Donald Trump, known for his harsh temperament, even considered deploying the military. This was neither the first nor the last incident of racial violence in America. Police brutality and racism continue to appear every day. Yet, the dying words of George Floyd, "I can't breathe," have become a symbol, a cry that echoes in every young American's voice. The story of racism, slavery, and the denial of human rights for Black people in America dates back centuries. When Columbus discovered America in 1492, European settlers began arriving in the 16th century. As farming and construction expanded, the demand for labor grew. European colonizers began luring, deceiving, and kidnapping innocent Africans, transporting them to America in ships like cattle. From Senegal, 750,000 people. From Sierra Leone, 4 million. From Benin, 200,000. From Central Africa, 730,000. And from Southern Africa, over 500,000 men, women, and children were kidnapped and brought to America. Many died on the way, thrown into the sea. Those who survived were sold to landlords and slave traders. Africans were also trafficked to India, China, and royal courts elsewhere. In America's southern states, where wheat, cotton, tobacco, and other crops were grown, African slaves were used as laborers, partly because the hot climate suited them better. The northern states, being colder, were populated by European immigrants, British, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and others, who had migrated since the 16th century. Even among white settlers, racial and linguistic divisions existed, leading to conflicts like the North-South Wars. Viewers, in conclusion, we can only say that racial and other prejudices are destroying the world. Those who forget their true worth are bound in the chains of slavery to fight oppression. We must learn, and we must rise.